Welcome to Crime Stoppers, presented by Main Street Bank. Crime Stoppers is a collaboration between WTRF-7, Love OV, and Crime Stoppers Upper Ohio Valley, an organization tasked with finding new information on cold cases in the Wheeling area. Over the last 4 weeks, we've taken a deep dive into the mysterious murder of Kyle Morgan, a 15-year-old high school student from Moundsville who was killed and left under the Fort Henry Bridge in June of 2016. Through our conversations with Sergeant Rob Seyfried of the Wheeling Police Department and McMecken Police Chief Don DeWitt, we've covered all of the major points of this story. However, there is one hole in the narrative that nobody can seem to fill. What happened between Kyle's arrival in Wheeling and his untimely death just a few hours later? Unfortunately, with no known witnesses and no security camera footage, those hours remain dark, leaving us only with theories and speculation. However, I believe that there's a strong possibility that somebody was in the Wheeling area that night and knows something, saw something, or heard about something. If you know anything about this case, anything at all about what happened to Kyle Morgan in June of 2016, please call the Crime Stoppers Upper Ohio Valley tip line at 877-TIPS-FOR-US. That's 877-TIPS-FOR-US. Even if you think it's insignificant, if you know that it's already been covered, if you know that the police are already aware of it, there may be a new detail in the story that could help solve this crime. 877-TIPS-FOR-US. You can make this call anonymously. Now today, as we conclude our coverage of Kyle Morgan's story, we're going to hear some final thoughts from Sergeant Rob Seyfried and Police Chief Don DeWitt.
So do we have any indication as to why Kyle may have ended up in that area?
Well, it's hard to say. There's been a few theories out there, one being possibly involving drugs and the sale of drugs, others being that he just wandered there to get out of the weather. So the exact reason that he went under there, we just don't know.
What seems to be the prevailing theory among law enforcement as to how he ended up there and how he ended up dead? Is it a situation of he's dropped off in Wheeling, it's raining, he can't get a bus ticket for one reason or another, he doesn't have his cell phone with him, he doesn't have any way to communicate back home, so he finds himself under the Fort Henry Bridge as a way to get out of the weather, as a way to figure something out until he can get back home? Is that kind of the idea there?
Yeah, I think that's probably the most likely scenario. Like I said, we haven't found any evidence as far as cell phone forensics, social media forensics, where he had communication with anybody while he was in Wheeling.
What's your take on what happened to Kyle that day?
Well, we know he had a backpack. Well, we don't know, but he was reported to have a backpack with him. We know he's going to get a bus ticket to Kentucky, so he probably had some money on him. So he was found with neither. So my guess would be a robbery of some sort, and blunt force trauma to the head. Somebody didn't want any fight or any resistance would be my guess for the robbery. And that's just a theory. You'll hear a bunch of theories, but that would probably be the simplest.
And how do you think he ended up under the bridge? Do you think he wandered over there after being dropped up in Wheeling? Do you think he was led there? Do you think he was forcefully taken there? Or is it just impossible to say?
It's really hard to say. He was 5'3", 120 pounds roughly. He was very small, so he could have been carried there in that very blanket he was wrapped in, or it could have happened right there and they put a blanket on, or he or whoever committed this offense, put him there. But it's either one could be likely. It could have either been brought there, happened there, or it could have staggered there after the injury, and that's where he ended up. But I don't know. I wish I knew. I'm sure everybody wishes.
I'd like to thank you for following along with Kyle's story as we've covered this over the last 4 weeks. I'd also like to thank the Wheeling Police Department, particularly Sergeant Rob Seyfried, who has lended his time and energy into helping us cover this story. And finally, I'd like to thank Main Street Bank for their continued support for Crime Stoppers. Crime Stoppers is presented by Main Street Bank, a production of WTRF7, Love OV, and Crime Stoppers Upper Ohio Valley. If you know anything, or you think you know anything, or if you've heard something about what happened to Kyle Morgan in Wheeling in June of 2016, please call the Crime Stoppers Upper Ohio Valley tip line at 877-TIPS-4US. That's 877-TIPS, the number 4, US. Thanks for watching.